Depends, right? Depends. All right, let's, oh, here we go. Thank you, Fred. And, okay, got it.
Amy, she's not here.
Exactly, something.
Michael,
Yes, sir.
Amy's not here.
No. I. Or you want to sit next to Jeff, or you want Jeff to sit next to you?
I don't, you know.
No,
would be
I'm not
nice.
gonna move think that. Let's I don't want to upset Mr. Heiser here, but think that's not being
Okay,
trustee
well,
Heiser.
we'll welcome all to the Village of Rybrook Planning Board session. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for your attendance. My name is Rob Goodman. I'm Chair of the Planning Board. Also in attendance tonight are my colleagues John Gerzan, Donald Crum, Scott Mendelson, Matthew Rutten. Is Matthew here? No. He's excused, I guess. Jeffrey Richmond and Amy Schoen is excused. Also in attendance tonight is our village attorney, Robert Zitt, our superintendent of public works, Michael Nowak, our village planning consultant from Hardesty and Hanover, Sarah Brown. And thank you also to Tara Orlando, our planning board secretary, who's not here, but we could not be here without her. And she prepares all the minutes and deals with all the back office stuff we have to deal with. So thank you, Tara. And also, I always omit him, but he's front and center of my thoughts, David Heiser, our liaison for the Board of Trustees. Our first, we have May minutes. I did not attend the May meeting. Does anyone have any comments on the May minutes? Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the May minutes?
Move.
Second?
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Mr. Crum,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson,
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
I think I have to abstain.
Michael, who prepares these minutes?
Tara does, I think.
Tara,
Wonderful job.
I want you to say that a little louder in there.
Thank you, wonderful job.
To Tara.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're-
Tara does the minutes and along with other department items within the building department. And, you know, it's a lot because she does planning, zoning, ARB, so she handles all three boards. So, yeah, so good job, Tara, and thank you.
Yeah, and also our minutes are up to date.
I think what I like about it, because it captures the main points of the discussions.
It's always the hard part.
But I think was, you know, I happened to chair the last meeting, and, you know, I talk a lot, but she only captured significant points, which I enjoyed.
By the way,
Earlier.
yeah, by the way, for all those who are listening out there or watching us, John, I did review the meeting from last time. John did, you know, thank you, John, for an excellent job. That was, you know, not an easy thing to do, to cover the chair for the last meeting. Okay, on our agenda tonight are two items that were on our agenda last time, and we are going to deal with them tonight. I think the first one is 177 Betsy Brown. I think we already have a public hearing scheduled on that, so let's have a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
Move.
Second?
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Mr. Crum,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah, why don't you just give us a summary? Do you have a revised plan? Did you submit a revised plan?
Landscape plan and,
Okay, you can go over that.
yeah, I'll just go through the whole thing.
Yeah,
again,
that's
since
fine.
It's been a couple of months.
That's fine.
My name's
the
Steve.
microphone, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My name's Steve Marchesani. I'm the architect for the Franklakh. We're proposing addition to the existing residence at Betsy Brown Road. The existing floor area ratio is 2,060 square feet, and our proposed FAR is 3,615 square feet, which is less than a maximum of 706 square feet. We added 1,555 square feet, which is more than the 50% of the existing, which brought us to this meeting here. So what we're proposing is we're going to add 492 square feet, this little red area here, to the existing footprint of the house. The remainder of the additional square footage is over the existing second floor, expanding second floor. The proposed addition deck all meet the zoning requirements for an R10 zone. And we have done a deep hole and a perk test, and our engineer did a stormwater calculation requiring 10 Cultex to catch all the stormwater from the house, the driveway, and the garage. Let's see. We also included a landscape plan showing the plantings in front of the house, as well as the required trees from a previous tree permit that was taken out.
Okay.
And that's basically it.
Sarah, any remaining planning considerations?
No, we don't have any remaining comments. Our only comment was about the replacement trees, but they've been placed on the landscaping
Right,
plan.
and you're satisfied with their plan?
Yes, they're dogwood and eastern redbud trees, which will be nice additions.
And Mike, you've reviewed the stormwater management plan?
Yes, I have. I've reviewed the calculations, and I've spoken to Hudson Engineering, and they're okay as far as the 25-year storm event.
Okay. Members of the board, do you have any questions?
I have a question on the stormwater and something that's been beyond this project. It's always been questioned in my mind. And I finally dawned on me, I was reviewing what you did there, that when you design the stormwater and you select the number of infiltration chambers, it's really based on the tributary area, which are impervious surfaces,
Correct.
not necessarily on the entire site runoff.
Not over grass areas, no.
No. So I know Mr. Novak always says the water goes where God wants it to go. And if it goes into the neighbor's property, so be it. I mean, that's a free runoff. At not the last meeting before, because there was no meeting last month, the month before, the young couple that were next door, they came and they kind of raised the question that, at one point their basement was fully flooded 6 feet, if I'm not mistaken. And I kind of live in the general area, so every time I walk by there, I look at the site. And the area adjacent to the right-hand side or adjacent to them, it's kind of sloped very severely to the to their kind of, there's a little space, it's kind of almost to their house. And when I looked at you, stormwater management, I said, oh my goodness, this is going to help him a little bit because the water from the roof is going to go hopefully in chambers. But the rest of the runoff, you're really not kind of considering. So my suggestion would be, a recommendation would be kind of more of a recommendation than a suggestion. It would be nice if along their property line, you put a kind of little swell and you would kind of guide that water from that swell right into the Cultex infiltration chambers, even if it means putting an additional 2 units. Would that be possible? I think it would be really, would be a good neighbor approach, if you wish. It would definitely solve the problem for the young couple that lives next door to you.
Right. Well, I had talked to them after the last meeting and explained to them that we were catching all the rain. And also that since we're going to end up be putting trees here too, that'll help build up that grade because we're going to have to.
I think anything short of the little channel swell, small swell, few inches, 5-6 inches in depth, and the kind of, you can have a grassed area swell, but just so the water would not run over to their property. You have so much room back there for to put those infiltration chambers. So whether you put a 10 or you put 12 of them, I don't really think makes so much of a difference. But it would be I think would really improve the situation that they are experiencing now.
Michael, what do you think? Have any opinion?
So our code, our stormwater code has specific language on when it is deemed that stormwater management is required. And our code stipulates that once 400 square feet of additional impervious is added onto the site, stormwater management is required for capturing all runoff from impervious surfaces for a 25-year storm event, which is 6.4 inches of rainfall. Okay? And the village has a number of caveats within the code that are as follows. A perk test is required to determine what the percolation rate of the soil is, which is necessary to determine how many chambers are required. Okay. We require that a engineer does not take a pre-construction, post-construction credit for what used to be lawn area before. Now it's concrete or impervious. What that would do is that would minimize that 6.4 inches of rainfall basically to half almost. So you would only have to capture 2.6, 2.7 instead of 6.4. So our code does not allow that, okay? Furthermore, we require full capture of all impervious, not just the difference between pre and post. So you're designing for a full 25-year storm event. So a person in this area getting 6 feet of water did not happen during a normal rain event. Okay? I'm here 20 years. Have not been in that location with 6 feet of water during a normal storm event. That probably happened during an Ida, Sandy, Lee situation where unfortunately all bets are off on any drainage at that point, because 2, 4, 8, 10 inches of rain intensity in 1 hour, there's no way any system's going to handle that. Okay? So what you're asking for, Mr. Grzan, is to capture some of the sheet flow, in essence, off the lawn that's flowing potentially that way by topography. Now, putting in 1 or 2 is just like this.
No,
it's just,
I'm
you
really
know,
saying that
it would have to be designed
Michael,
to
excuse
do
me.
that. So it's not just maybe 1 or 2. It may be 5, 6, 7. But what is the standard that you're designing to? Our code doesn't have a standard. So someone could come in and put in one Cultec 180, which is the smallest Cultec, and say, okay, I put in a Cultec, but it's the smallest one that's so. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Thank you. I'm very familiar with
Yeah.
what you said, but sometimes I think we need to go a little bit beyond the code. You know, we have the public hearings. We encourage public to the neighbors to participate, and when people participate, I think we need to hear them once in a while. And I am not saying do it, but it would be a nice gesture. And what you are basically telling me, well, the code doesn't require it, okay? But sometimes we need to go a little bit beyond the code, all right?
And I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just explaining what the process is with regards to stormwater. There needs to be a realization of when something happened.
And you
okay?
know,
Because if it
I'm
happened,
very sensitive to water runoff because I have a problem in my own house for the last 25 years. Okay, and you know it. And if you walk over my property today, there is about 3-4 yards of topsoil what I have to spread around because every time there is a heavy rain, my backyard floats away. All right, so you know I'm very sensitive to that. All right,
understood.
and that's irrelevant as far as I'm concerned here.
Well,
But this is a
Understood.
small gesture that we can do for the neighbor next door, and what you are basically telling me, well, we really don't have to.
Well, I mean, the applicant technically doesn't have to. The applicant can do it if they decide they want to do it. We can't compel them to do it unless there is, I mean, what you're suggesting, Mike, is even if the applicant, did what John is suggesting, that still may not resolve the problem.
And
because
that's what
it's
I'm trying to
because
understand.
It's hard to determine.
I'm sorry. I mean, that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to explain.
Right.
'Cause Mr. Grzan had made a statement saying, well, that'll help solve the problem.
It may
It
not.
won't. From a legal perspective, and I'm not an attorney, there's only so much that could be captured and done at a certain time. Okay? And there's a difference between a requirement, there's a difference between a feel-good gesture. You know, is there, and we have to evaluate the entire area. Is there a recurring flooding issue in this area? Recurring during 1-inch storms, 2-inch storms. That's what you have to take into consideration. If it's a 1 in a 50-year storm and that's when someone got hit, you know, yeah, it's not a fun thing. And I'm not trying to be insensitive to that, but those are your 50, 100-year storm events that cause catastrophic issues in municipalities versus your microburst on an August afternoon that just dumped 2 inches of rain in an hour and that person got flooded. So is it a recurring issue that someone's constantly getting flooded due to topography, due to soil characteristics, due to some kind of drainage event? Or is it we just got hit hard by a major storm event and we got hit hard?
Well, I guess my concern is that applicants that are complying with our stormwater management regulations have regulations to which they have that they have to comply with. It would be very hard for applicants if they didn't really know what the standard was. And what you're articulating is, and I know in the past, the planning board, because it's a planning board, we're not a zoning board, so we're interested in, the code does not cover all contingencies. That's when the planning board comes in. But usually it is something very marginal that can be done by an applicant. Like if all you were doing is if you were doing regrading and you were grading it in a way, you had various options, but you could grade it in a way that could benefit a neighbor, then we would say, do it, and you would probably say, no problem. But there
probably would be some regrading in the sense that we're putting 10 Coltex in, there's gonna be a lot of.
right, but if we're talking
So we
about,
could do a little swale on the side.
And go where? That's
Yeah, right. Who else is being?
I mean, it sounds like this is a slippery slope to reevaluating a stormwater management plan, even though it would be good for the neighbors. By the way, this is a public hearing. We'll be closing the public hearing, but we'll be asking the public to attend. It's like, I understand John's point, but what I'm concerned about is that people have to know what the standard is. And stormwater management is not an inexpensive or easy thing to do. So unless it's a very marginal thing that could be done to improve the situation, I'm very hesitant to require an applicant to do that. I welcome input from my colleagues.
Do you want to hear my comments? Yeah, okay.
Why not?
I mean, I would love to see, and I know this may not be in the budget, but I did my own informal, as I was educating myself on stormwater management issues in the village. And I am a civil engineer, and I studied this in college and developed hydroelectric plants, so I have some familiarity with hydraulic issues. But I did an informal survey of other communities in Westchester County, New Jersey, flood-prone, communities in New Jersey, coastal communities in California that were expressing issues. My opinion, and I might be wrong, I'd love to see some more technical rundown. We may have one of the very, very toughest stormwater set of requirements in the country. It is incredibly difficult. I'd love to hear, just a survey of even professionals, like how our village ranks, and for good reason. And I'm not saying we should loosen it, but I'm afraid of trying to, and I know you're not asking to change the code, but our code is really severe. I think that's sort of what
I like our code. I'm not asking to change the code.
But I sort of feel like Mike is saying not just what it is, but he said 10 reasons why ours is severe.
I am speaking more as a resident, unfortunately, than as a board member.
Yeah.
And sometimes I speak from the heart. rather
Right,
than
right. That's
mind.
okay. It's good.
And if you can criticize me for
No,
that,
I'm not.
but
I'm not.
I feel good about it.
Yeah.
And what I'm suggesting in the scheme of things that are going to take place on this particular site, this is a minuscule thing. The soil is going to be disrupted. Vegetation that was there for years is going to be disrupted because of the very fact that the site is going to be fully under construction. And what I'm basically saying, when you go back and you see that the very end and you do the surface restoration, put a little swell. That's all I'm saying.
But I mentioned that at the
I'm not saying
meeting.
change the code. I'm not saying that, it's all right, or we go into legality of the things.
No, but when the neighbors were here, I mentioned that as an option, and for whatever reason, it was discussed that that would be adverse to somebody else or not a good solution. So, I mean,
Okay.
there was a reason for that, though, right? Because I came up with the same suggestion.
I made my comment, I made my suggestion, I am going to support the project, I'm gonna vote yes, all right?
Yeah.
But I'm a little bit taken back so every time, we always throw the book at each other. I mean, why?
Well, look, I think it's important, and I think our board is more innovative than most in that we, do push the envelope and we do have discussions like
I
this.
know we do that, but we still, I'm here for 37 years, and we do have a water runoff problem, whether you like it or not in the village.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and that may require us to, revisit.
Now, whether infrastructure is sufficient to handle it or
Well,
what, but
that's it.
there is a water runoff problem.
Yeah, no question about that.
And
And-
every parcel of land, where you have a natural runoff, when a parcel is intact, it's a one scenario. And I'm not a structural engineer, or see, happen to be electrical engineer, so what the heck do I know about the runoff? And when you take a native site and you disrupt that, and you build 5, 6 homes on that site, you change whether, I think common sense says you change the one, God's way of water running off the site.
Well, I mean, that's-
Understood. But, I mean, look at those people, they built a swimming pool on Hillendale. They built a huge, what was it called, rain garden? That thing was huge. They put a small swimming pool in, and we have a tough code, is what I'm trying to say.
But also we have,
That's-
we have a tough problem where development was done in the village at a different historical point in time when people weren't as conscious about the environmental constrictions.
Right.
And now, a lot of things the rubber has met the road on that, and a lot of properties are finding themselves with a lot of flooding problems. And the truth of the matter is, those properties should have never been built there. But that would have been extremely far-sighted for the boards in the village to say, like, in 10 years' time, because of climate change, you're gonna be underwater, so you
Right.
probably shouldn't be developing the site. But in any case, are there any further comments with respect to this application? Okay. We have a resolution. First of all,
We got to close
first
the
of
public
all,
hearing.
is there anyone in the public out there that would want to speak to this application? No one? Okay, can I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. You can be here all night, I never understood why people waited to second,
Everyone is eyeing.
Somebody else, I'm waiting for
to
somebody
do
else
it.
to say second,
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Mr. Crum,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Mr. Richmond,
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes,
I'll start calling names out.
and, yeah, absolutely. Call names out, that's a good. Robert, you have a resolution? for
Yes,
us?
this is the short and sweet version. The written resolution is more fully captured on the village's website. Whereas on behalf of the property owners, Michael and Amy Frenklakh, the applicant submitted application for approval of a site plan concerning the proposed construction of a first and second floor addition to an existing dwelling, along with the installation of a patio at the property located at 177 Betsy Brown Road, identified as section 135.44, block 1, lot 19, in the R10 zoning district. Whereas the planning board is the approval authority for this application, and the application is a type 2 action under SECRA, and a duly advertised public hearing was opened on July 11th, at which time all those wishing to be heard were given the opportunity, and the public hearing was closed. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Rybrook Planning Board hereby approves the site plan for the proposed construction at the subject property based on the conditions set forth therein.
Any conditions?
Just standard conditions. Applicant shall submit construction management plan, etc.
I see those two long paragraphs at the end, resolutions that are appearing now. I haven't seen those, these two big ones. It be further resolved during construction, the village building inspector, superintendent, blah, blah, blah.
Sure. So in the event that there are sort of minimal changes that could be addressed at the administrative level, that just authorizes it to be dealt with in that manner.
I'm glad to see that. I think
No,
it's
no, no.
long overdue.
I think it was actually as a result of,
Yeah.
it was our board's recommendation that that be done.
That's
because
absolutely great.
We had a
Yeah.
problem with
Yeah.
site changes, and the issue was, should they come before the planning board or not? So we wanted to notify applicants that they couldn't just do site changes and not come back to the board if they weren't just minor. So I think that language, I'm glad you approved that language, because I think we were responsible for that. But, okay, are there any comments relating to the resolution? Okay, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
So second.
Bob, Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Mr. Crum,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Mr. Richmond.
Yes.
Chairman Gum. That's what I'm
Yes.
talking about.
There we go. Anyway, thank you very much, good luck.
Good luck, huh?
And
Small
also,
swell, don't forget.
and also I appreciate your patience from last time. I'm glad we got it done. Okay.
I thought I was gonna get a little swell until you guys turned all against me. Can't win, can't win.
Okay, 177 Betsy Brown Road. So, what is it?
No, that was 1
That was it. 7 Lincoln Avenue.
7 Lincoln, right, got it. Sorry about that. Now, the procedural posture that we were in last time is that it was really the first appearance of the applicant. And usually we schedule a public hearing for 30 days later, and then we open up the public hearing and we deal with the application. You guys are a special case, because you dutifully showed up at our last meeting, ready to have that public hearing scheduled, and we weren't able to schedule it because we didn't have a quorum. So, our back channels have been working hard to get this public hearing on for you. And I just want to make sure, I think you've been in contact with the village, Mike, the notices, everything that needs to be put up.
have been communicating, legally with everybody.
Right. So what I propose is that we open up the public hearing today instead of next month, and adjudicate this application so that this applicant can be on his way. Any objection? Okay. All right, can I have a motion and a second to open the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Mr. Crum,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Mr. Richmond.
Yes.
Chairman Gumman.
Yes. Okay.
Well, we certainly appreciate that
Well,
very much.
appreciate your patience from last time.
No
Thank you.
problem. So I'm Jim Anacarico with Cronin Engineering, representing Mr. Paul Cuzzupoli. This is an application, site plan application and steep slope permit application for what is now a retaining wall, segmental retaining wall, tiered retaining wall in his backyard at the back of his property, which is about 15,450 square feet. Really, the need for this came about. Paul's backyard, when he called me and said he had a wet backyard, I showed up without my boots, and I really wish I had shown up with my boots, because I've never seen a wetter backyard when I showed up. So the first thing, Paul,
Where is the water coming from?
it appears to be coming from somewhere underground. In the northeast corner of his property, he had excavated some of the slope, and there's literally I would say a 5 to 7 gallon a minute stream coming out of a rock fissure, basically. Just backyard, spongy, soaking wet. And his yard is very, very flat, from the point at the bottom of the slope at the back of the yard towards the front. Just really a bad
Is the
situation.
water coming from underneath, from the ground, or is it running off from?
It's
from
it's
adjacent
certainly
property?
not runoff, sheet runoff
Not
from
a
the
runoff,
property
huh?
above. I mean, the property above are higher, obviously. It's the Rytown Hilton property. There actually is a berm behind Paul's property on the Rytown Hilton property. There's actually what I guess at one time was a very defined swale, and I think it's just gotten filled in with leaves and debris over the years.
Is this continue for a while, for a long time, or is this wet backyard just recently?
For quite a long time, Paul tells me.
Okay, so
It actually has a
it's not a broken water line someplace?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't believe so.
Okay,
I mean, Paul has a sump pump in his basement that runs constantly.
So,
So,
continue. Now I'm intrigued with what you're gonna do
so
to help.
as we say, yeah. We, the first thing, I met with Mike at the site, and Mike's been great about trying to get the Rytown Hilton to try to, clean up that. What I thought was happening, or I still think is happening, is that a lot of the runoff that does come down from the Rytown Hilton property and stop in their swale, which I should also mention, their swale, I guess, eventually goes to the north and eventually discharges into the town system, right, the village's system. It seemed to be, there's not much pitch in it, debris, things like that, so a lot of the water was sitting there. It's hard to say if that water's just seeping into the ground and then coming out into his property, or if it's actually like an underground,
It doesn't
some sort
sound
of
like it,
stream.
it doesn't sound like it helps. Let's put it that
So
way.
Mike has helped to clean that up. They obviously have a big site up there. A lot of their water gets channeled into, one discharge point. So what we've proposed on our property is this tiered retaining wall, which Paul basically wants to, just to try to, give himself a little bit more of a backyard. And then at the same time, capture the runoff that's coming out of there with the footing drains that are going to be placed behind the wall, behind the retaining wall. We've also added a swale at the back of that, and we've kind of added some swales to the sides to your comments earlier.
so what are you gonna take, you're basically going to
We're basically
capture
capturing.
the water and take it some other
We're
place?
gonna try to capture the water. We're obviously not adding any impervious area other than the wall itself, which is way less than 450 square feet. But we are trying to
Are you
capture.
channeling the water up to the street, to the city pipes?
We are proposing that as much as we can. It's the footing drains basically for the walls that are probably gonna capture the most water. That's the water that's really just coming onto his property from underground. And then swale-wise, that's just gonna be to control any runoff, sheet runoff that might make its way onto Paul's property.
Now,
And to kind of try to keep it on his property and get it towards the front.
now the two retaining walls,
Right.
they're not gonna be on the property line, are they?
No.
They're gonna be within your property?
They'll be within his property,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
And they're not very tall. The
Yeah.
back wall is 3 feet high, the front wall is 2 feet high.
Okay,
And then they just come on
but
down on
they're not
angles.
on the property line?
No,
Because I
it's
don't,
probably
my
about
code does not
6.
allow walls on the property line,
Right,
right?
they're about 6 to 6 feet.
It's like 8 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
6 feet off the property line
Okay,
in his property.
all right.
We don't have any trees we need to take down to do any of this. We saw the planning comments, and we have no, I think it was always Paul's intention, although we never provided a landscaping plan, but I think it's his intention, obviously, to landscape between the two walls. There's a good 10 feet between the two walls of area that could be landscaped.
Have you proposed a landscaping plan?
I did not. I said, but we have no problem with that if that's, one of the requirements.
All right, well, we'll confer with Sarah
Sure.
about that.
Chairman, I still have
Yeah.
a difficult time visualizing what are they really proposing.
Yeah.
There's drawings, yeah.
Yeah, do you have any, I don't know.
I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of always think that everybody's got it
Yeah,
up on
please, no,
the
please.
screen now, so I didn't. But if you want to, do you need to take a look at it, or you want, I don't know. I guess I can put it up.
I think there are drawings in our attachment, but they
Yeah.
are very, it's very difficult to read.
Yeah, well,
So basically, the applicant is proposing something similar to what was done in Hidden Falls, where it was a two-tier retaining wall, one in front of another with 8 to 10 feet in between it to hold it built into a slope. So that's kind of what it's going to be, with a couple of wing walls on each side to stagger down the side slopes.
Totally within the code.
Totally within the code.
Fine, okay.
Yeah.
and Sarah, what about the landscaping? Benny?
Yeah, I was going to add about the landscaping. In this case, we didn't actually recommend landscaping because of the amount of water that Mike had told us was back there. I don't know if it could really support anything, and we don't want to plant trees that could
Right.
compromise the retaining walls. So as long as it's going to be a grassed area, I would be okay with actually, they're not taking out any trees, so we're not in a situation where we need to put replacement trees in. It may actually be better in this case to not put additional
That's
landscaping.
something to consider, because it's awful to put landscaping places where it doesn't end up working.
Right.
And things end up dying and whatever.
We obviously plan on, grassing the backyard, which we can't right now because it's always soaking wet and it just doesn't take. So
Be able to put some landscaping up in between the two-tier walls,
yeah,
maybe just
yeah,
a little bit of,
absolutely,
just to break
smaller
it up.
shrubs, yeah,
Something
sure,
like maybe some
flowers.
boxwoods or some, yeah,
Absolutely.
smaller.
Something like that, absolutely.
Right. Do they need a landscaping plan for that?
And I think they could probably put something together, email it over on the plans, and I'll talk to Sarah about it, and we'll, if the board's okay, I think we could work that out amongst ourselves, if you're okay.
It could be a condition.
If you look at the survey, in effect, you have a two-tier backyard right now. There is you go from 84 feet to 70, 70, mid-70s. So within a foot, 2 feet. So in effect, you almost have a two-tier backyard.
Right, there was material that was taken out from, you see where the contours are real close to one another? It's kind of moved over to the right side, or the south end of the property for now. That, it wasn't always like that. That was some work that was done without, but that's why we're here now. We're trying to stabilize this whole slope and get it cleaned up and deal with the water at the same time.
So you started this work and then you got the stop order?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Is there any chance that anybody could approach the upper wall, like the public, from the hotel or neighbors? Is there any chance anybody or pets or whatever could get above that wall?
I don't think so.
And that would be trespassing.
There is a fairly.
Trespassing is illegal.
Okay. Besides that, there's a fairly dense buffer, and there actually is a berm now on the Rytown Hilton property, and you have to actually, I don't know if you know it, but there's a path back there, and then you have to kind of,
Is the path close to your property?
It's probably about 25 feet away from the property, maybe 30.
I mentioned it, but the code guys could pick this up, but the upper wall is more than 30 inches high. So technically, if the public has any chance of coming upon that,
Right.
you would need some sort of guardrail or fence. I noticed the right-hand neighbor has a fence, so that's not an issue. What I was trying to say, and not have you put any kind of guardrail or fence, if there is little to no chance anybody could approach that and sort of stumble over it.
Right. I think that path is far enough away.
Pretty far enough away. Okay.
It'd be be difficult for somebody
if
to
you
make
look
it
at the
over.
survey, I'm looking at the survey, the property to the right, tax lot number 5, it shows that there are 2 concrete walls on that property running perpendicular to your property. I'm just curious, what kind of concrete walls are those? They're like, what, 4 or 5 feet apart? And if those are deep foundations, I could see where that could have disrupted the underground water flow.
But it's actually coming from the opposite side.
Oh, it's from the
Yeah,
left
it's-
side.
It's coming from the
Wow.
left side, yeah,
That's
Which is the
it.
upstream side in a sense.
right.
What are those 2? Anybody knows what are those concrete walls? Just
What
curious.
what they're serving as? Yeah.
I guess that's what you're proposing yourself too.
Similar.
Could be they're having the same problem.
Similar.
Except ours will be built probably the right way. I mean, I don't know how old those roads are. They say they're concrete. I don't know if they have footings and drains in them. You
I'm
know,
just,
this
I'm
whole-
just reading what's on the map.
We're,
Yeah.
we're gonna build this in a way that helps the
So
drainage.
where, if you look, point me on the survey map. Where on the survey map would the 2 walls be located? Would be end to end, the entire width of the property?
From the right-hand side, where you were mentioning the concrete walls, we're in probably about 12 feet, 10, 12 feet. And then on the left-hand side, we're in about 6 feet from the property lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are basically following the steep slope, if you wish. So the walls are not going to be straight line. It's going to follow the property.
I mean, it will
There's
be
a
straight
fence
from
here.
south to north, the 2 tiers.
Oh, there is.
The wings
Okay,
will come
so
down,
you
but
only
there
work
will
Yeah.
be a fair amount
So
of
it seems
area,
like-
around the wall, between the wall and the property line, on all 3 sides. At least, like I say, 6 to 8 feet on the north end, about 6 to 8 feet along the property line with the Rye-Town Hilton, and then about 10 to 12 feet with the neighbor to the south.
So did you do any testing to kind of at least get some sort of indication that these walls are going to help you solve the wet backyard? Or are
There's
you
really
just
no
going
way to
to,
do
or you're just
anything.
going to basically level the property, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, there was really no way to do anything on site to fix drainage here. I can't put Coltex in the ground here because they'll fill up immediately. That's how wet this backyard is.
And what's the difference in elevation from the backyard to the front of the street?
Backyard's 85, elevation 85, and the front street is 76. So it's only about 9 foot
9
difference.
feet, so
yeah.
you can have the nice water flow pipe. You can put it like a chamber back there, like it's a stand, and have a pipe from the bottom to the street, and you kind of move the water away.
Right, I mean, for the most part, the lot itself from the street, 76, like I said, almost all the way to the back property line.
You have enough
Right
of
now it's about 78, so
a gravity to move
Right.
the water.
we're only, the majority of the lot, there's only a 2-foot difference in elevation from the front to the back. It's at the very back of the lot, that's 85 feet. You know.
Where is the water gonna go?
The water, we have the water going, well,
I think there is
we have the footing drains for the wall tied into small yard drains, one on each end, which will also pick up sheet flow from 2 swales that we created on the sides, if you can see those.
Mhm.
And then that yard drain, at least the 1 yard drain, is going to be piped to the front.
I think there is a catch basin
to
on
the
the Lincoln
existing catch
Avenue that
basin
you're
on the
going to
street.
go into.
I was just concerned if it's really that wet, is the catch basin gonna be able to catch all the water coming off this property, or are we gonna create a situation where there's water running down Lincoln Avenue and it freezes and everybody's driveways are now frozen over and
Well, there's a 30-inch RCP pipe in that catch basin, so, we'll have minimal impact, even during a large storm, that pipe may be very, very full, but whatever we're adding to it, it's really not gonna have any significant impact to that. This is really gonna allow Paul's backyard to dry out under normal conditions, which will have really no impact on that pipe.
You agree, Mike?
Their pipe is gonna go directly into the back of the catch basin, so there's not gonna be any icing or sheet flow, across the road.
Right.
So from that regard, that was one of the things we discussed. With regards to overflow, there are, I believe, 3 or 4 basins. There are 3 or 4 basins just at the intersection right there that go, across Westchester Avenue as well. So, in major heavy storm events, we do get all those anyway bubbling up as it is, just by volume, even though it is a 30-inch pipe. That goes back to our other discussion, you get 5-7 inches, everything's flowing full. But the goal here is to give the property a blue sky day chance to kind of dry out a little bit and give it a relief. Because even as of right now, we looked at the Cultex and they're 8 inches from the top or 10 inches from the top. Even right now, they're holding water. So the goal is to give them some relief and get some of that water away. Try to at least give the property a usable piece of property somehow.
I think it probably looks the best option. You have the catch basin on either side of your property in the back.
Right.
And then you connecting the two, and then you have a pipe going to the Lincoln Avenue.
Right, so we are trying to control the water also.
Mike,
Any-
you have
any
no
sheet flow
problem
from
then
going
connecting to
neighbors,
the
which
catch
right now it
basin on
kind of
Lincoln
is.
Avenue.
Yeah, that's.
As long as it's going in and you're not gonna get that sheeting,
Yeah.
that's.
And the walls are
Yeah.
as much a way to hide the drainage, right?
Right.
Because you can't just like build it underground.
Right.
You're trying to cut the water off as it
Right,
potentially.
the back of this wall is gonna have
I think-
probably 2 feet of gravel behind it with the pipe at the bottom,
Yeah,
like you would typically build a wall. And
so
then-
it's drainage disguised as a wall,
Yeah.
sort of thing, yeah.
I think it looks like probably best option that you have right now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's to the code, and you have no problems. Yeah. I don't have a problem either.
There's already screening on both of the
Yeah,
sides.
yeah,
Right, there are
yeah.
fences
Yeah.
along both
Yeah.
properties.
Yeah, I think you're making the best of a challenging situation. Okay, unless there,
And these walls are gonna be designed by an engineer with the proper footing and
Right,
back,
Absolutely,
okay.
right. We have details on the plans
Okay,
for that. Right.
fine. I have no problem.
okay.
They aren't very
2 feet and
high
3 feet.
Yeah, I
as
know.
well.
2
Yeah.
feet and 3 feet.
I mean, we may end up maybe making the front wall 3 feet and the back wall 2 feet, maybe if that helps with the, in
Well,
case somebody,
technically, if you made them both 30 inches, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
right,
Or
exactly.
29 and a half or
Right,
something,
right.
yeah.
Okay. Let's see. If there's any member of the public out there that would like to speak to this application? Okay, any other comments by the board?
No?
I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So second?
Mr. Grzan,
Yes.
Mr. Crum,
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson.
Yes.
Mr. Richmond.
Yes.
Chairman Goodman.
Yes. And Robert, we have a resolution.
Yes, resolution granting site plan and steep slope work permit approvals for property located at 7 Lincoln Avenue. Whereas Paul Cuzzupoli submitted applications for approval of a site plan and steep slope work permit for the proposed construction of a 2-tier retaining wall with stormwater drainage facilities for the property located at 7 Lincoln Avenue. Whereas the planning board is the approval authority for this application, and whereas the proposed action is type 2 under SECRA, whereas on July 11th, 2024, the planning board opened a duly noticed public hearing on the application, at which time all persons interested were given an opportunity to speak as to the application. Now therefore be it resolved that for the reasons stated herein, the Village of Rybrook Planning Board hereby approves the site plans listed herein and approves a steep slope work permit for the construction of the proposed project.
Okay, any comments regarding this resolution?
No.
Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second? Our names are gonna be in the minutes of the meeting.
Mr.
You and I
Grzan.
really deserve the credit this today.
Mr. Guzan?
Yes.
Mr. Crum?
Yes.
Mr. Mendelson?
Yes.
Mr. Richmond?
Me and Amy.
Yes.
Chairman Goodman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Appreciate
Yeah.
the time.
Thank you.
Let us know how it works out. I hope it dries out, okay?
I do too.
Yeah.
Still be mad at me if it doesn't.
Yeah, 'cause I'm sure it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Take care.
Yeah, we have nothing further. I was planning on having the planning board take the month of August off. John can be here by himself. I don't know. I have some holidays planned. I'm sure all of you do too. And I think our fall is going to be a busy fall, so we might as well take advantage of it while we can. I don't think are there any applications that are in the pipeline, Mike?
From a residential perspective, I don't have any residential projects. We have the one commercial project, which is the hotel, which is gonna be
Right.
coming down, but short of that, I don't have anything right now on my desk or in the hopper for the planning board.
Right, okay.
And we
All
just
right.
cleared up our agenda pretty much.
I have no problem missing as long as the trustee Heiser gives me a waiver, because, I could be going on probation if I miss too many meetings.
That's true.
And I was counting being here in August.
It's okay, we'll give you the waiver. You got it.
You're speaking for yourself, Rob.
That's fine. All right.
Yeah, and we will, I don't know, we have educational sessions that are sort of piling up that we're gonna have to deal with at some point. What were we planning on doing anyway? I can't remember. But actually, there's
Stormwater management training.
stormwater management. There's also another one, which may have some relevance relating to landscaping. I think we had some discussion about landscaping. We had a project almost here relating to landscaping. I think it would be good to sort of know more about how landscaping can maybe help with dealing with water in the back of homes and things like that. Our little development has a lot of units with very soggy backyards that could probably be helped if there were maybe correct plantings, if anyone really paid any attention to what the landscaping was, use of grasses, stuff like that. So that may be something, we can
Yeah, we
talk
could
about
add that to
soon.
our list about landscaping and maybe to how they look on the plan and then how in practice after they grow, what the buffer really becomes.
Yes. We'll have,
They grow very fast.
They grow very fast.
Yes.
And
I learned that
sometime
my
the
hard way. And then I
spacing-
go to Michael to give me a permit to remove it. He said no.
We have a lot of wet backyards, I need it.
So-
a lot of wet backyards.
I will add landscaping to our list. I
Yeah,
think
this-
that's a good one.
Yeah, let's recall in one of our, pre-agenda sessions, let's sort of remind ourselves what sort of sessions we should have, and maybe depending, we can do it either or before or after, but we should get some of these things done,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, this could be a controversial topic regarding landscaping, but if you're talking landscaping design, it seems like a lot of people, the public or even we, we're always talking about buffering, screening. And what ends up happening over time is you get every lot has an immense, hedge, 40, 50 feet high, whatever, surrounding the yards. And maybe every property owner loves that everybody wants their own little oasis. But as regards landscape design for a community, I don't know if that's the optimal. I mean, I would love to hear a professional's training on that, because it seems like the solution to everything is just more screening. Oh, you think you might see the thing? More screening. As opposed to, and by the way, this is not just theoretical, because that issue was kind of on the agenda for this.
That was on the agenda.
Which-
And in fact, if it comes back before us, we were gonna have a site visit, just to illustrate what can happen. It's very rare that we have an opportunity to see the results of decisions that we
Mhm.
make
Yeah.
down the road. this was the product of this process, because there was a report and recommendation from the planning board relating the landscaping, which was of course adopted by the Board of Trustees, but it sort of originated with us. And now, like 10 years later, 8 years, 10 years later, we see the results of that landscaping, and it's not pretty. And so I think there are maybe lessons that we can take away from that experience that maybe we can apply to our understanding. Plus, I think, Sarah, we could be much more intelligent interlocutors with yourself, because we just say, well, Sarah, what should the landscaping be? But I don't think we have really any understanding about that there are certain types of landscaping serving certain types of purposes. And I'm not as familiar with that as I probably
I
should.
stopped at the nursery this past weekend, and I wanted to buy a few arborvitaes. And, I didn't realize that the different types of arborvitaes. And the one that I was looking at, this says 6 feet, and then you read it, it said, can grow up to 45 feet. I said, wait a minute, that's exactly, I don't mind having a 6 feet edge, but
Exactly,
45 feet,
Yeah.
that's gonna close my house away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was a
but
good
that's
point,
what,
yeah.
that is a good point.
I think it's a good topic.
It's a
I'll
good,
put it in our list.
it's a good
And
topic.
also where you have a setback of 15 feet,
They grow this way too.
and you can barely move between the house and the hedge.
But
Sometimes
also,
that gets forgotten how
but
wide they
also-
get as well.
but also that landscaping can have very practical utilitarian reasons. It can, because plants absorb water, some may absorb water than others. Some may discourage bugs or animals, vermin, whatnot. I mean, it's like, depending on what you want to do, there may be plants that can help you to do it.
And then in some cases, it's better to not plant
And then,
anything.
just like with this, actually, this is the only application I recall
That I've never
ever
said.
where you recommended that there not be landscaping because the environment wouldn't support it. How often do we come to that?
That's a very rare recommendation
Very
from
rare
us.
recommendation. But, yeah. All right, unless there's anything further, have a motion to adjourn?
Enjoy your summer.
You too?
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
All right, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.